Do you sometimes enjoy watching YouTube as if it was TV or Netflix or something like that? So that one program lasts a bit longer than just 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. That seems to be one of the trends at the moment, and I decided to make a video like that by combining a number of tutorials into one longer video. You may have noticed I have about 350 videos altogether. Okay, I didn't put them all together, but I picked 10 videos that have been popular and that are not very recent. I only edited those videos very little or not at all. So let's start the first one. It's a tip that has been on a number of videos, and on all of those videos people have commented how practical and useful it has been to them. It has to do with yarn that's too thin for what you want to use it for. You like the color and material of yarn you have, but it's just too fine for what you want to use it for. Fortunately, there is an easy way to triple the weight of any yarn as you crochet on it. Let's see how it goes. Here I have some Aran weight yarn and I want to triple this. So what you do, set it out in so that there's 3 strands of it. Like this here, with the tail here to the right, and take hold of all of the 3 and then make a slip knot as if this was just one yarn. So just make a slip knot whichever way you make it, and then you start to crochet. Just start to crochet until, depending on how long your loops were, you come to this here loop and you have your working yarn here. And what you do is you put the working yarn through the loop like this here, and you pull. So you hold on to it and you pull and pull as long as you want to, but it's worth doing it fairly long so you don't need to do it all the time. I have here maybe about a meter, not quite. And then you continue crocheting normally, and when you come to this here join, you just treat it as if it wasn't there. It's not going to show at all. So you just crochet across that, like this here, with your treble yarn. And you can of course use then any stitches. I'll go back now and start doing double crochets here, and another one, and then I will soon get to that loop here now. So now I'll do the same again. I'll see that the yarn comes through that there loop, and I pull whatever length there, and then just leave it like that and continue crocheting normally. The join's already in here and I can't even see it. So this is all you do. You continue every time you come to the loop, you start pulling a new loop. This is really something you can use with any yarn you have. Then we have a tip that has the largest number of comments on any of my videos saying that, oh, I finally got this. It's to do with the magic ring. The magic ring, or magic circle, is one of the easiest and handiest tips in crochet. Such a quick way to start crochet. However, I often hear people saying that they find it difficult, or that it comes loose afterwards. But that is because they make it in an unnecessarily complicated way, or don't secure it properly at the end. All you really need to do is wrap yarn around your index finger. Let's see how. So, hold on to your yarn, leave a bit of a tail, and wrap the yarn round your index finger once, like this here. Then you can hold on to the other end with your fingers, take your hook and insert it into that there ring you made. Take the yarn and create a stitch. And I always first make one chain here, one tight chain. Then just take it out of your finger. And now we start working on the first round, whatever it is that you need to make. I first chain 2, and that will count as the first double crochet, and then I'll make 11 double crochets into the ring. So you start crocheting into the ring. Always your hook into the ring, whatever it is you need for your first round. There I have my stitches, and then take hold of the yarn end and pull and tighten. Now it depends on what you are making, how tight you need to make it. If you need to close it entirely or leave a bit of a hole. I'll close it now. There. And then I'm closing my round with a slip stitch and continuing with whatever it is I need for the next round. But now we come to the point that we need to make sure that this does not come apart. So you can't just cut it up, otherwise it will come out. Normally I weave the tail in after I have done a bit more, but I'll do it here now. I pull the stitch a bit so it doesn't get loose. And then take a needle. What I normally do, I first go through some of the stitches, just like this here. There. And then come back. I skip over one of the yarns here and still pass it to the opposite direction once. And that should be enough to keep it from unraveling. So now I'm able to cut it. And then I just continue. The next one has to do with joining yarn when you run out. A super simple and useful tip for some types of yarn. When you are crocheting something and your yarn comes to an end, there are many different ways of joining the new one. For me, it's very important not to use any knots to make hard lumps in your crochet. And at the same time, it's great if you don't have to weave in ends. Here is what I'm working with, and to do this, you need to leave an end of yarn about 30 centimeters long or 12 inches. And then I'm taking the new yarn. I'm using a different color here so that you can see better what I'm doing. And then we work with a piece the same length as the end there, and set these like crisscross like that, and fold them over like this here. Hold on to a small piece here so it doesn't escape, and continue crocheting normally with the 2 yarns. This tip is something that works with fine yarns and medium weight yarns, not so well with thick ones, because with thick yarns the double bit would be too thick. And this works equally well regardless of what stitches you are using at the moment. So holding on to that for a minute, I continue crocheting normally, whatever stitch I'm working with. And now I see that the join is coming up there, and I'm simply continuing as if there was no difference. Like that. And now there's a little bit left, and I just put that aside and continue. And now both of these ends are inside the stitches enough so you can just cut these off and they won't unravel. Next, we are looking at how you crochet 2 rows of mesh at the same time. I, for instance, used this technique in making these tote bags. The way we crochet this mesh or netting goes very fast because you are actually making 2 rows of mesh at the same time. So there's double crochets both upwards and sideways in the middle there. Let's see how we make it. To start, have a chain of any length, whatever width you are going to make something. And the turning in the beginning takes 8 stitches. So if you have a specific number of stitches, add 8. And to start, 2 yarn overs and insert the hook into the 5th stitch from the hook. 5 there, and pull up a loop there. And now we make like a start of a double crochet. So take a yarn over and pull through 2 loops, but we leave the rest of the loops on the hook. And then 1 more yarn over, and then go into the 4th stitch here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a loop there. And then take a yarn over, and we finish this off by always going through 2 loops at a time. 2, 2, 2, and 2. Like that there. And then we'll do it again. Chain 1 always in between. 2 yarn overs. And now here we insert the hook into these 2 loops in the middle here. Those 2. And a yarn over and through them 2. And then again, like a start of a double crochet, yarn over through 2 loops. Yarn over and skip 1 stitch and go into the next one. And then again, always through 2 loops. So this is what you repeat. I'll go to the end of my short chain here and then we look at the next row. Like this here. So there's 2 rows done at one go. And then for turning you need 7 chain stitches. Chain 7 and turn 2 yarn overs and go into the 5th stitch. 5 and starting a double crochet there and then a yarn over, and from now on we always go to top the previous double crochet there, like that, and then otherwise it's exactly the same. There, I'll do 1 more. Chain 1, 2 yarn overs, through these here 2 loops, and yarn over through 2 of them, yarn over into the next one, and then finishing it off. So here we are. This is how you continue. Okay, and after I had published the video about 2 rows of mesh, people started asking me if you can do 3 rows at the same time. And here's how you do it. Now we are crocheting 3 rows at one go. Tens of thousands of people have seen the one with 2 rows, and somebody asked me if it is possible to do 3 rows, and I decided to try, and it's not at all difficult. So let's see how we do that. You can crochet this mesh with any length of a chain, but you need then 12 extra stitches for starting this. So 12 of these are taken for the height of those 3 rows. We start with 2 yarn overs and then insert the hook into the 5th from the hook. 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert the hook there and pull a stitch and yarn over and pull through 2 as if starting a double crochet, but we leave the 3 loops on the hook. Then again 2 yarn overs and skip 2, 1, 2, and insert the hook into the 3rd stitch, and again pull up a loop and yarn over and pull through 2, and again leave this on the hook, all these. Now we have 5 loops. For the last one, just 1 yarn over. It will be the corner like this, and count again into the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th stitch, and pull up a loop. And now we finish this off by always taking a yarn over and pulling through 2 stitches. So yarn over and pull through 2 until you only have 1. Like this. So now we have the first bit, 3 rows of mesh netting. To continue, chain 1 and 2 yarn overs, and now we insert the hook. I find it best to go through this and this loop, so that makes it sort of sturdy. So loop there and yarn over and through 2 loops, and again we leave this here. You probably hear the noise from the street right through my microphone. 2 yarn overs, and again in this here go through this loop and this loop, and yarn over and stitch, and yarn over and through 2. And again now we are at the stage where we have 5 loops on the hook, and yarn over. And now as we continue, we always just skip 1 because we have 1 chain at the top. So skip that one and in there. And now again always through 2 loops. Like that. And now this would be just it there. This is what you repeat until the end of your row, and then we'll look at how you start the next row. Now I'm at the end of this first row, and then we need to chain 10. Chain 10. And after you have 10, 2 yarn overs, and again we go into the 5th stitch from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. And start a double crochet like that. And 2 yarn overs. Skip 2. And start the stitch. And now we are at the stage of 5 loops on the hook. Then turn. And 1 yarn over. And now insert the hook at the top of this here stitch, so that you get direct lines for the mesh. And here now we continue the same, always through 2 loops to get the stitch row finished. Here. So now we can see how much it grows on 1 row. And this is what you continue. Chain 1, 2 yarn overs into these here loops, 2 yarn overs again there, 1 yarn over and into this here stitch below, and finish it off there. So now we can see how much the 2 rows just are growing, and this is how you continue. The next bit is a YouTube short, in other words vertical and less than a minute long, and it shows how you join granny squares on the last round, like for instance in this here project. I'm in the corner of a granny square and I'm going to join another one here. Take a square that's finished and set it wrong sides facing against the one you are working on. Chain 1, insert the hook in the corner, take the yarn and make a slip stitch. That attaches it. Chain 1 again, return to the one you are working on and make the second granny stitch in the corner normally. After that, insert the hook in the next chain space in the finished square and pull the yarn straight through and make a slip stitch. And then again return to continue your square. And you continue the same with each chain space you have there, also the corner. Here we are. Next, a tutorial for mini bead stitch, one of my favorite stitches for a long time. When you see this stitch, what first comes to your mind? What would you like to make using this mini bead stitch, or also called Elizabeth stitch? This stitch, like any stitch, looks different depending on what kind of yarn you are using. Here's a very chunky one, then a double knitting weight, and this here is bamboo. It is actually super easy. After you have got started, you repeat the same row over and over. So this is the kind of a project you can be working on while you're watching TV or anything else that's easy, because you don't need to concentrate on your work. Let's start the tutorial. Make a chain with an even number of stitches to whatever width you want to make something, and then add one more chain for turning. We start in the third stitch from the hook here and insert the hook, pull up the yarn, yarn over and insert the hook in the same stitch, and again pull up a loop, and now we have 4 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all of them at the same time, and then chain 1. That's the main stitch. Now skip 1 stitch and then insert the hook in the next one, pull up a loop, yarn over and again a stitch in that same stitch. Again 4 stitches on the hook, yarn over and pull through them. Chain 1. And repeat this until the end of your chain. So a stitch like this here, a mini bead, into every second stitch and chain 1 in between. Here I'm at the end of the row now, and then again you chain 1 for finishing that stitch and 1 for turning. And then turn, and when we look at this finished one, we can see that the stitches go sideways. To achieve that look, we need to go into the side of each of the stitches we have. If we stretch this here a bit, there's this space under the chain we made, but that's not where we go. Instead, we go into this here space at the side of our stitches. So insert your hook there and pull up a loop, yarn over and the hook in the same space, and then another one. So now here we are at the same situation again. We have 4 loops on the hook and we pull through all of them and chain 1, and then we go into the next stitch, and here again just the same thing. So the main thing is that you insert your hook into the right space, because we can already see that these ones are going that way and these ones this way. This is what creates this texture. I'll do one more. Chain 1 and find the side of the stitch there and a new stitch in there. So continue like this here until the end again. I'm almost at the end now, and here also it's a little bit harder maybe to find the where your hook goes, but it goes into the same kind of a space, and finishing off again. And at the end of each row you chain 1 for finishing off the stitch, and you chain 1 for turning, and then this continues the same way. So the second row is what you repeat all the time. So here is my space for the hook again, and we just continue then the same all the time, just repeating that same stitch for this lovely textured surface. And now we are looking at how you do this here stitch. It's V-stitch with trebles, and after publishing this video I learned that many people call this type of V-stitch as the continuous V-stitch. This is what we are working on today. It's the V-stitch using trebles. It's a very fast stitch, so it's ideal for large surfaces like blankets or scarves. First, make a chain that is as long as the width of the project you're planning to make. The repeat here is 3 stitches. I'm just making a small sample here. And then chain 6 more for turning. 6. And then we start the V-stitches. And we are using trebles right through, using the American term. In British crochet terms, a treble is a double treble, 2 yarn overs. So take 2 yarn overs and count to the 7th stitch from the hook, not counting the stitch on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And insert the hook there and pull a stitch and yarn over, and always through 2 stitches. Like that. Here's how we start. And then chain 2. And 2 yarn overs. And we're making another treble in the same stitch as the first one. So in here, again, make a stitch and start making the treble, but stop here, so we are not finishing it. Instead, we are leaving 2 loops on the hook. And then going straight on to the next one. 2 yarn overs, and now skip 2 stitches here. 1, 2, 3rd. And a treble there. And now we are finishing these off. So when you have 3 stitches on the hook, take a yarn over and pull through all of them. So it's starting to go sort of a bit like zigzag. And then we continue, chain 2. And we repeat the same. So a treble in the same stitch. And not quite finishing the treble. And then making another one, skipping 2. There. And here again we have 3 loops on the hook and yarn through all of them. And this is how you continue. The entire thing goes like that. So chain 2 and continue just as before. I'll continue now to the end of the row, and then we'll see how we do that. I'm now here almost at the end, and the last stitch I was making is this, where you pull all the 3 together. And after that, chain just 1, and then make a treble in that same stitch. So this will make a straight edge. There. So the end looks like that. And then we go on the next row, chain 4. And turn. And here we start by making a treble in that space created by that one chain we made. And here again, don't finish it off, but leave it like that, so that you have 2 loops on the hook. And then, otherwise we do exactly as before, but now we start inserting the hook into this larger gap here. So making a treble in there. And here again those 3, and pull through all of them. Chain 2. And then a treble in that same space. And continue. Otherwise, like on the first row, but this is actually quicker and easier when you don't have to count anything. You just go straight into the next loop always. And here I have those 3 that I pull together. And continue the same. Here. So each time after you have pulled 3 stitches together, then you chain 2. Otherwise, no chaining. And again, continue till the end, and then we look at the last stitch. I'm close to the end now. Here again, chaining 2, and then I have 2 more spaces there. Making this here stitch. And now again, to get the edge straight, just chain 1 and a treble in that same space where we just had the previous stitch. There. And this is how we continue. I'll still start one more row, and I take a different color yarn here now. Here's my other yarn, and I'm simply starting to crochet using the other yarn and then finishing off the yarn ends later. Here 4 chain stitches and then turn, and then we keep going the same way. Stitch here. And so on. Next, then you chain 2 and then you continue. So this is quite quick to make, so you can quickly make things like scarves or blankets. Then another very colorful stitch, the bobble stitch, so that each bobble is a different color. Now today we are looking at a bit more colorful work, crocheting the bobble stitch so that the bobbles are different color from the background. And even in this, there are 2 different ways of doing it. Here you can see that it's a 1 color on the 1 row. These are in a row. Or you can also make it in such a way that each bobble is a different color. I have these ones here just without any order, but you can of course also make them in a line, each one a different color. So let's see how it goes. I have left the yarn ends here. That will help us see which way we have been doing it. I will first make a row where the bobbles are all the same color. The yarn for the bobbles runs inside your stitches here, so it shows a tiny bit, but not much and not from a distance. You need a base of some sort, and it can be absolutely anything. The thing to remember just is that all the rows where you are making the bobbles need to be single crochet using the American turn. To start a single crochet row, I chain 1 and turn, and then I take the second color. When we make the bobble, it goes to the back side from where we are working. So bring the second yarn in front of the work and hold it there, and then start crocheting single crochets in such a way that the yarn stays inside the stitches. So you go from both sides of that yarn to make your stitch. I'll make a few before making the bobble. So the yarn stays there. It's hidden inside the stitches. I'll make 5. And here the bobble, bring the base color forward here out of the way and take the other one as a working yarn, whichever way you hold your working yarn. And then we'll make 5 double crochets, again the American term, but we don't finish it, any of them. Leave the last stage undone and leave the stitch on the hook, and then 4 more like that, all into the same stitch. Three, 4, and 5, and you know you have enough when you have 6 loops, 6 stitches on the hook. 5 in the bobble color and 1 in the base color. Then yarn over and pull the yarn through all of these at one go. There. You can tighten that a bit. And then we continue, and the bobble yarn, the orange one here, again goes inside the stitches. So move the base yarn towards the back where you can hold onto it and work using it, and the other one stays in front. And insert the hook, and we are making a single crochet again using the base yarn around the orange yarn. Like that, and you need to make it quite tight so the bobble stays where it is, here. And then you might want to tighten it a little bit, but not too much. And then continue like that. Again, single crochets with that orange yarn inside the stitches. Say I'll make about 6 in here until I make the next bobble. Here. So the yarn is in there. You may want to tighten it a bit, but again not too much if it shows a bit. Then again the base yarn forward, and we'll make a bobble using the other yarn. 5 double crochets into the next stitch. Here, and then yarn over and through all of them, and you can push it backwards a bit. And then if you have a very big stitch here, then tighten it a bit. And after that we continue just as before. The orange yarn goes inside the stitches of the blue yarn. And just finish off the row like this, or make more bobbles depending on what you are working on. Here I am at the end of the row, and then I just leave that yarn You need to have at least one row in between two bobble rows. I'll chain 2 and I'll have a row of double crochets here. So you just crochet until you get to the bobble, and then we'll look at that here. And the only thing you need to watch for when you are working past this here bobble, that you don't increase stitches by putting 2 in one place somewhere. So 1 stitch into every stitch. And here you could just as well have half double crochets, trebles, anything at all, but whatever it is, you have 1 stitch into each stitch so that it stays straight. Unless of course you are working on something where you do increase, but that's not for this tutorial. There. So now I've gone past that, and you see that it's completely flat on the back side. The bobbles are always on the one side. And then just finish off the row. I made a few rows in between, and now I'll make 2 different colors of bobbles on the same row. When we look at the wrong side of this here bit that has all the bobbles in different colors, you see that each one has been done with a separate piece of yarn. The yarn also runs inside the stitches a bit before and after the bobble, because if you just started the new yarn where the bobble starts, it would be harder to make it tidy, and that it would be easy to finish off the yarns. I haven't finished these ones off yet, but I will pass them a little bit towards there, inside the stitches still. You can make so many lovely and colorful projects using this technique. One more video, but certainly not the least important. This way of making the I-cord has been a game changer for me, because it's so easy and quick. Especially, I don't know if people still teach this way of making an I-cord with crochet, that you actually take the hook out of the stitches and hold them. I saw that some years ago, and it's super complicated, and there are several easy ways of doing it, but this here one is the best, I think, and the one I use most. We are crocheting an I-cord. You need a long end to your yarn, and then make a slip knot. I have the end yarn here at the bottom, and the working yarn that comes from the ball is in there. So first go round that end yarn this way, and then go and take a yarn over with the working yarn and pull through both like that, and then we just repeat this round through the back, get yarn and make a stitch. So after you get used to it, it goes fast, and you get a nice cord. Now that we have seen all 10, which one of them would be the most useful for you? Please tell me in the comments. And thank you for watching.